Whole Group Instruction Inquiry, IDS 3713, Fall 2020 by Cassandra Leon. Identity Statement. Surface identities. Surface identities are going to be something that you can see right when you look at somebody. So these are going to be something that you can tell from no interaction and just seeing somebody on the side of the street. My surface identities are going to be Hispanic, low socioeconomic status, and Christian. My passions are going to be something that you're not going to be able to see by just looking at me. These are going to be something that are going to involve interactions with me and getting to know me as a person. These are going to be making a difference, helping others, and uplifting others as well. And what created my passions are going to involve my surface identities. So by being Hispanic, I'm taught that family is very important and that you should help others whenever you can. And by being a child of poverty, I needed assistance as a child in order to get where I am today. So I'm very grateful for that. And that makes me want to help others the way others helped me. And by being a Christian, you're taught to love thy neighbor. So you just really need to focus on helping others and being the best person that you can be. Interdisciplinary inquiry. Integration is a process in which data and information are combined together. The second part is a combination of two or more disciplines, their data, theories, and concepts. The third one is going to be curiosity, and curiosity is the want or need to seek out information. And the reason that the three of these are super important to interdisciplinary studies is because curiosity is you need to seek out information and you want to seek out information. And you want to obtain as much knowledge as you can because you're curious about different subjects. And if you only seek out information for one discipline, you're soundly versed in that discipline, but you don't have information or knowledge on any other areas, so you are limited in what you know. And if you use interdisciplinaries, you can get soundly versed in multiple different areas, and they don't have to be related. They could be completely different items, or they can also be related together. So any two disciplines that you can find information and make connections to. Research question. So my research question is how to effectively teach a classroom using whole group instruction when the students are at varying academic levels. And this is going to target specifically for special education. The problem statement is, when teaching students at different academic levels, how can you know that the students at a higher level are challenged while the students at a lower level are not being overwhelmed? And how can you provide accommodations and modifications while challenging each student? The purpose. The purpose of this study is to find strategies and evidence-based practices that are going to work for teachers in the field and can provide a well-rounded education for special needs students while providing them an education similar to, if not the same as, general education students. This includes providing education in the least restrictive environment, so as close to general education students' classroom as you can, depending on the severity of their disability or modifications, accommodations needed for their activities. Literature review. The use of explicit instruction was found predominantly in most of the articles that I researched for this presentation. Explicit instruction is going to be direct and very highly structured instruction for the students. And in more than 3 studies that I have found using my articles, they found that teachers that use explicit instruction versus teachers that don't use explicit instruction aren't going to have a higher retention rate. So those who use explicit instruction had higher test scores, they were doing better and well academically, and when they came back 2 years later to administer the same test, they had higher retention rates versus the ones that didn't. Methods and data resources. I collected written responses for this research paper. One was from a special education teacher. There was another from a general education teacher. There was 4 survey responses and 10 research articles involved in making this paper. The reason that we have a general education teacher is because as a special education teacher, you need to get your students' classroom and education and academic levels as close to general education So if we take responses from general education teachers surveying how they uphold their classroom, we can in turn use that to direct our classrooms, and getting personal experiences from teachers in the career field in special education. Their experiences and everything can help mold a better education for our students. To organize this paper, we had to compare and contrast the special education teachers' responses and the general education teacher responses. So for special education, there were quite a few responses and written responses surveys. So we organized it based on similarities, whether they liked whole group instruction, if they didn't like whole group instruction, and their views of strategies that they use inside the classroom. For the general education teachers, their responses were very similar, so a lot of their responses just categorized together. Interview questions. So these are going to be interview questions for the general education teachers. There were 5 in total. The first one's going to be, how do you modify material for students with academic needs? The second one is going to be, would the whole group instruction be affected in any way if your students had academic needs? What are some effective whole group instruction strategies that you found work? Do you favor whole group instruction or individual instruction? And what are specific lesson plans or contents areas that work better for whole group instruction? The next one is going to be specifically targeted for the special education teachers. These questions are for them. What strategies do you find work best for whole group instruction? Do you prefer whole group instruction or individual-based instruction? Is there specific lesson plans or content that work best for whole group instruction? Would you do whole group instruction if the students are at different levels? And do you have examples of when you used effective whole group instruction in special education classrooms? The reason that their questions are going to be different is because they have different areas and specialties and the way that they uphold their classroom. So we gave them different questions for those reasons. The findings and implications. So for special needs teachers, as I hypothesized, they favored group tiered or individual instructions, and the general education teachers favored whole group instruction, and they like to monitor the classroom by walking around and providing individual-based instructions based on needs while the content areas are happening. For special education teachers, they found that science works better for whole group instruction because they can do one activity, show the entire classroom, and modify the content, the activity, and the takeaway from that. So they still get the same instruction, but they're going to do different activities. And for general education teachers, they found that they prefer whole group instruction and soundly all of the content areas. They didn't have a specific one that they liked better. Whole group instruction also favored that when they teach whole group instruction, they treat it as a performance, and they try to put more of their personality into their teachings. Versus special education teacher, they provide more accommodations and modifications in their teaching for their students, so they don't let their personality come out as much. And the takeaway from this is to provide whole group instruction to special needs students. You can do the same activity for all of the students, but when you're doing the individual independent work, or when you're doing the conclusion, that's going to be specific to their grade level and academic need, to make sure that it's not overwhelming for some students and that it's not underwhelming for other students, and that they're being challenged with their content work that they are in their classroom. And for whole group instruction, it can also be grouped based on grade levels. So you can do it for kindergarten through 2nd grade, and then you can do 3rd grade to 5th grade if you want to do group instruction for those content areas, but provide instruction for all of them. These are going to be all my resources. These are going to be all 10 of the articles that I used. and the textbook that is referenced inside the research paper. And that's going to be it.